Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, man, we have quite a day today, let's just say that. Let's talk about what happened today, what we can expect, because this is quite a start to the week. And tomorrow, of course, in the morning, we also have the CPI data coming out, I believe at 8:30 a.m. EST or Eastern. So that can, of course, affect quite a lot of things. And man, it's looking definitely, for Tesla at least, it's looking, interesting to say the least. So let's just go over it, guys. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Again, none of this is financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research as per usual. But Tesla ending the day down 6.34%, which is quite a significant drop, which is putting us at $167.70 now compared to the market. An absolute abysmal performance when the QQQ was up 1.3% pretty much, right? And Tesla being down 6.3%. Quite a horrendous performance today, right? Really bad. Just horrible. Just really not good. Now, we did talk about yesterday how on Friday, when the market closed, how we talked about how this candle over here looked, not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely looked a lot less bullish than, I would have liked to see. And how, I said how Tesla's looking a little bit kind of weird and how, it's not, the best close that I would have liked to see in the entire world, mainly because we didn't go above 180 and we actually closed below it. And today, apparently, that kind of played out, unfortunately. I was hoping that wouldn't be the case. I was hoping this wouldn't actually happen. So, obviously, I wish I entered some puts up here, but, it did happen. Not this aggressively, I thought, of course, but, we are, of course, just kind of playing out the fact that the close on Friday just wasn't it, man. It wasn't that push that we needed. It was so close, but just yet so far, right? So unfortunately today we paid the price for it, right? And we're down quite a bit. Now let's talk about what this means, what this can overall, I guess, what we can expect for the rest of the week and all that stuff. So yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like, even I'm starting to get a little bit tired of this movement of this of how Tesla's moving lately, because it is pretty disheartening, right? It is definitely a little bit annoying, I guess is another way to put it. And the main reason is because sometimes makes you wonder, like, why is it down 6%? Like, why is it down this aggressively on a fairly decently green market day, right? Like, what's causing that? What's the issue? A lot of people are attributing it to Elon. Essentially, writing a lot of stuff on Twitter. Let's just say that, right? So that could definitely be part of it. Give me one second, sorry. So my girlfriend's alarm is going. Yeah, so people are kind of attributing it to what's it called, Elon on Twitter, potentially tweeting some interesting stuff, to say the least. But it could be that, could be part of that, could be none of that entirely. Who knows for sure? But what do we see happening here? What can we expect from this? Well, so you can see we did break down underneath this little blue line. Now, this blue line wasn't like, it was something that would have been nice to hold, but I don't think it was something that I would have put too much weight on. However, the one thing I will personally put a lot more weight on, and something that I absolutely really want to see hold, is essentially more or less exactly where we closed at, this kind of 167-ish level. This is the level, this 166, 167 level, this needs to hold. Like, we are at such a critical part right now that this absolutely needs to hold. Like, I'll be extremely disappointed if this does not hold, if this crashes, if this breaks, if we just fall right through, would be exceptionally disappointing. But this absolutely needs to hold. However, on the bright side, if we do hold, right, now there's a few reasons why I think it will hold, though of course nothing is for certain, especially with CPI tomorrow and the markets, looking like, maybe they have a chance to kind of drop here a little bit, right? But, the fact that is, the Tesla might hold here and might kind of maybe even do its own thing, kind of like it did today, where the market's decently green, Tesla's quite red, and vice versa, is that we are setting up yet another double bottom. Now, again, take this with a grain of salt, mainly because I've said this before, we've set up a triple bottom here, and it failed. I mean, we had a double bottom, rallied beautifully, and then a potential triple bottom, and then we of course collapsed. Same thing happened here, right? Let me go ahead and show you guys. We had a potential bottom here and a potential double bottom right here. Unfortunately, collapsed, and we went straight down. Now we're essentially setting up what could be yet another double bottom, which is going to be that area right there. So that's definitely something to look forward to. And I'm thinking a lot of people are definitely eyeballing 100%. So that's number one. We have a pretty textbook double bottom setting up right now, which seems like it wants to hold. And the reason I say it seems like it wants to hold, again, it seems, doesn't mean it will, is the fact that the RSI is still looking beautiful. It's still setting up a beautiful bullish divergence. We are still setting up, you can see, higher lows, even though the stock is essentially setting pretty much lower lows at this point, arguably, right? When Tesla closed way back here, let's take a zoom in over here, right? When Tesla closed back at this level over here, which actually did close, actually this is the lowest close we've had technically since way back like 2 years ago, right? Because technically we did close lower than this candle that was over here. This was at 167.87 and we closed at 167.82. So technically we did have the lowest close we've had in a couple of years now. But with that being said, back when we had this close at 167.87, the RSI was sitting all the way down at about 28.5. Now we're closing at slightly, ever so slightly lower. However, the RSI is substantially higher than all the way down here. It was sitting all the way at 35.5, right? A solid 7 points higher, much higher, much more obviously, much more visibly higher, even though we are technically lower on the actual stock, right? Not by a lot, but nonetheless still lower, right? So that's extremely important to consider, right? So I see those kind of things and I like that. And remember how I think it was 2 days ago, yeah, it was 2 days ago on Thursday on this candle, how when the RSI came down like this, and then I said how, I wouldn't be too surprised. I hope I said it. I'm pretty sure I said it. How I wouldn't be too surprised if we actually do come down to the overall kind of trend line-ish, if you will, of this RSI, its upward momentum. Well, that's exactly what happened on today's movement, right? We essentially came exactly down to this overall kind of, support, if you will, on the RSI, on this overall movement up that it's happened, that it's doing, which is, of course, that bullish divergence, right? It is kind of setting that up as well. So we'll see if that ends up being the case and this actually ends up playing out, because at the moment it is setting up such a textbook double bottom with a textbook bullish divergence. It just looks so textbook, but sometimes it feels like all it takes is one stupid Elon tweet, something that he just tweets as just a little too much, let's just say that, a little overboard, and all this is just essentially thrown out the window. That is unfortunately always a reality, a realistic possibility. Just something to consider, of course, right? Now, again, like I said, tomorrow is RSI day. RSI day. Talking about RSI so much. CPI day, right? Tomorrow we have the CPI coming out, which of course can affect the markets. Now the markets are up on a very, very green VIX, which again, like I said, has me a little bit suspicious. Unfortunately, maybe not so much for the bulls, a good sign for the bulls. We'll see, guys. We'll see. Of course, you never really know for sure. But the VIX is up substantially on a green market day, so that's usually a little bit suspicious. Now, we'll see what it ends up turning up into. But I definitely do think the markets, even though they potentially might have a bit of a rally, it definitely looks like the markets are ultimately not looking the hottest. It is looking like the markets probably want to look to pull back, not necessarily tomorrow, but like pretty damn soon. Unfortunately, that might mean Tesla gets hit even harder. We'll see. We've already seen plenty of times Tesla can do its own thing and perform its own thing. Like for instance, on Friday, the markets were overall down. You can see pretty bearish looking candle, followed by a pretty bullish looking candle, but bearish looking candle, while Tesla had a huge green day. And now we're having the complete opposite. Tesla, massive bearish red, just painful looking candle, while the market is just casually skyrocketing, right? So just keep that in mind. Tesla does tend to do its own thing pretty often, so you never really know for sure, but we'll see what happens, of course. But if Elon continues his shenanigans on Twitter, stating things like my pronouns for Fauci are whatever, I forgot exactly what it was, but just things like that, right? Where it's just kind of like, why, just why, maybe you can, maybe say it another way, right? Something a little bit more, you know what I mean. Something like that can, of course, always affect a Tesla stock, right? It can always affect it, and it's just not great. Unfortunately for us, right, as Tesla investors, the Twitter shenanigans do affect Tesla as much as we like to admit it or not. So yeah, anyways, bit of a ramble over here, but ultimately that's essentially what I'm seeing. Let's take a very quick look at the major indicators, which, I mean, there's probably not a whole lot to look at because we are, of course, probably below everything at the very moment, right? The RSI, the Bollinger Band, we are approaching the red line. I don't think we'll actually touch it because I personally want this double bottom to actually bounce personally. We'll see what happens, of course. But moving along, of course, the 5 and the 10, we did get rejected by the actual 5 today, so we're below both of those as well. So yeah, it went from looking, still okay bullish over here to, but with some suspicious action happening, to now plummeting, looking definitely a little bit less bullish. However, with that being said, again, like I said, the double bottom into the RSI bullish divergence still has me hopeful, and I'm not losing hope yet. But it is starting to also kind of wear on my patience a little bit as well. But again, I want to make it very clear, if we do not hold this level and if we do fall, the fall will be pretty steep and it will be pretty aggressive, and we most likely will be coming down to the 150s fairly quickly. Just something to consider, guys. But ultimately, that's what I'm seeing. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.